Dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to Cinema Chazzy, the segment on this channel where I review the many movies that I watch over the years, whether they're old or new or modern or classic. And I know that some of those words are synonyms, but I have to say it because it's my intro. I have it ingrained in my brain. Now I have it memorized. And today I'm excited, man. I'm really pumped up because I'm going to be talking about one of my most favorite Disney movies of all time, you know. One of my most favorite animated movies ever, whether it's Disney or DreamWorks or... there's really not much else to go on besides those two, right? So today I'm going to be covering the very awesome Wreck-It Ralph. You guys should know at this point that I'm a huge gamer. I play a lot of games on YouTube. I play a lot of games off of YouTube. I review games, you know. I love talking about them. I love making friends with gamers, you know. So, you know, this movie was right up my alley. It was released back in 2012 and it was directed by Rich Moore, who did a really good job. Had a very star-studded ensemble cast. You know, we have John C. Reilly voicing, you know, Wreck-It Ralph, and on the titular Wreck-It Ralph, we have Sarah Silverman voicing Vanellope, among other actors. So I think it was really cool how they implemented all of this awesome video game lore from decades, you know, and made it into such a modern, nostalgic take on the whole thing, you know. Seeing the world through the eyes of pixelated game characters, you know, I think it was really creative. It was really awesome. And a lot of other people around the world seem to think so because this movie had an initial budget of $165 million, you know, which is a lot. Seems like a good amount of cash, although it went on to gross $496.5 million at the box office, man. It was a critical and commercial success, you know, and that movie to this day is just so incredible. Like, I can watch it, you know, countless times. I can watch it a bunch of times, even in a row, and not get bored of it. Now, okay, in a row I would get bored, but still, I've watched it quite a few times myself, you know, and I'm excited to finally, you know, review it here because I've been playing this game called Starlit Kart Racing on my channel, and it just reminded me of it, so I thought, hey, what better time than to review this movie, you know? It's been a long time since I've reviewed a Disney animated movie, if I ever did. No, I did. I think I reviewed Dinosaur once, you know, but that was such a long time ago. It's probably around time that I redo that video, huh? But anyway, man, I really like it. You know, the visual gags related to gaming, you know, even if you're not a gamer, you can definitely enjoy this one here. So many callbacks to old arcade games, and, you know, the way that they implement gaming culture as a whole into pretty much every single frame. You know, the characters being very well fleshed out, a lot of really great development, the relationships they form with each other. Everything was awesome. It was produced and distributed, obviously, by Walt Disney Pictures, Walt Disney Animation Studios, Walt Disney this, Walt Disney that, you know. This was a very good mark, I know, on their resume. I love this movie so much. The sequel absolutely sucked, but I'm gonna get to that later. First, let's talk about this one. And before I get into this, a little bit of the synopsis, let's take a look at a clip from Wreck-It Ralph.
Welcome to Game Central Station. Trains for all game destinations now boarding.
It starts to feel hard to love your job when no one else seems to like you for doing it.
Hey yo, everybody! I'm okay.
I'm really going to enjoy editing this one. I'm going to really enjoy watching these clips, man. I love this movie so much. The plot is very unique and straightforward. We follow Ralph, you know, who's the main villain in this game called Fix-It Felix Jr. And the titular, you know, Fix-It Felix is the hero, you know. It's basically like those old-timey Mario games, you know, where he was jumping up the barrels, you know, to try to save the princess from Donkey Kong, you know, where basically Ralph just wrecks the building and Fix-It Felix comes with his little golden hammer and fixes it, you know. Then the residents celebrate. That's what the player does. We see the POV of the players in the arcade, you know, the kids playing, you know, and doing the right things, but then we go inside the game and we see that the video game characters are actually real characters, no 3D, and they interact with each other, they have parties and mingle and stuff. And then Ralph at night sleeps, you know, in the garbage, in the dumpster, and sees everybody else having fun in the building, having parties. So he really wants to be a part of that. He's kind of tired of being the bad guy, you know, and it does make sense, you know. It really, I mean, when you spend so many years, I think the game is coming up on like the 30th anniversary, so he kind of got bored of always being the dude who sucks, you know. So then he wants to, you know, win a medal and prove himself a hero. He does go to a party upstairs and wrecks it, you know, while everybody is celebrating Felix. So he leaves his game, which is kind of frowned upon in the gaming world. He wants to win a medal in this really in this game called Hero's Duty, right? So he goes there. It's a first-person shooter, but he messes everything up, you know. Then through a series of events, he gets in the ship and goes to I think it's Candy Rush, the name of the game. The names kind of elude me because after I saw the sequel, everything got all mixed up, but I'm pretty sure it was called Candy Rush. And then he his medal gets lost. This girl named Vanellope von Schweetz takes it and puts it into a little cup so she can participate in the race, right? So she loves being a racer, but she's a glitch, you know, she keeps glitching out and causing problems in the game system, you know, so that's why she's kind of looked down upon. But, you know, they eventually, despite, you know, their differences and not liking each other initially, they do start to get along more, and Ralph continues on his journey to get the medal, and he helps Penelope become more of a racer too, you know, but then Fix-It Felix goes out, you know, and tries to find Ralph because, you know, there is a, like, the game is broken because Ralph isn't there. So in real life, the arcade manager, you know, puts up a sign that says that the game is broken, so that's going to cause it to be unplugged and taken somewhere else, and all the characters will die. So then Felix goes out and meets this woman named Calhoun from Hero's Duty. You know, she's the sergeant, and they fall in love eventually, you know, because why the hell not? They're completely different, but it is an adventure, you know. They go out and find Ralph because there are side bugs. One particular side bug escaped from the game Hero's Duty, and they can multiply, so it's going to cause a lot of crap. So eventually, you know, the movie goes on and Ralph starts to grow a little bit more alongside Vanellope. They do become very close friends. She does want to be a racer. She lives by herself inside a volcano, you know, with a bunch of Mentos fall into the lava, so he relates to her. He makes a little track for her, and they make a little cart together so she can race and practice and stuff, and everything starts going that way. We eventually meet King Candy, who is like the ruler of Sugar Rush, you know, or Candy Rush. Is it Sugar Rush or Candy Rush? What the hell is the name of the kingdom? It's one of those two there. I love this movie so much that I forget these details, but, you know, Ralph goes to him and they kind of make a little bit of a pact, and he says, look, I'll give you your medal so you can go take it and go back to your game, but you can't let Vanellope race because she's a glitch and she's going to completely, you know, mess up the system. It's going to be restarted and everybody's going to die and whatnot. And Ralph believes him, and he breaks Vanellope's card, which leads to them having a conflict, but then eventually he changes his mind and he lets her, you know, he repairs the card and takes her back to the race. During the race, we find out that King Candy is actually Turbo, who is an old video game character from back in the days that glitched out. He went Turbo and destroyed his game and another in the process, you know, so now he has been recoded, and it's a really interesting race, but he fuses with the Cybug, which have multiplied. There are hundreds of them now. It's really scary, that part, way too many bugs on screen. He becomes half him, half Cybug, but then Ralph, you know, eventually destroys him, and then Ralph falls into a volcano, you know, with a bunch of Mentos so it can explode like Pepsi or Coca-Cola or something. That is essentially the final act. So at this point, we have a few things wrapped up. You know, Vanellope does win the race, I believe, and then Calhoun and Felix, you know, kind of tie the knot. However, we find out after the game resets that Vanellope was actually the princess, never a racer. She was actually the ruler of this entire game here. So for some reason, she doesn't want that. She goes back to being a racer with the glitch and all. She becomes very popular. You know, it kind of revitalizes her game. You know, the gamers really like to come and play as her with the glitch and stuff. She becomes really well liked. You know, it's a very good way to wrap things up. You know, Calhoun and Felix get married, and Ralph is no longer the bad guy. He still plays the game, but he's much more liked now. So we see a lot of token cameos from random characters. We see Cupid, you know, we see the Street Fighter fighters. It's really nice, man. The way that they interact in the hub world, going from game to game and hanging out after hours at bars and eating, you know, it's, well, kind of eating. Ralph has 2 chairs. I don't know if they can actually eat, but still, it's really nice to see how that works, you know. I really like this movie. A lot of the plot details, you know, because I also watched the sequel recently in Cinema Sins, I kind of got a little of the details mixed up here, but that's essentially the plot. I really liked it. A very nice little bow tie there at the end. So good. So awesome, Disney. There was no need at all for a sequel, but yet you went and made one anyway. Let's take a look at another clip here before I discuss some more of the production.
Ralph, you are a bad guy, but this does not mean you're bad guy.
I don't want to be the bad guy anymore.
Everything changes now.
Ralph's gone to Hero's Duty? You game jumped?
You can't mess with the program, Ralph.
Escape pod activated.
Now, first, let's talk about the cast, right? Like I mentioned earlier, we have John C. Reilly, just an American national treasure, man. I love that guy so much. Playing Ralph, you know, who is a very tough and big but kind-hearted villain. You know, he really wants more out of life, and I really think that John brought a lot of depth to the character. And the same can be said for Sarah Silverman, you know, voicing Vanellope von Schweetz, you know, who's the racer slash glitch. I really thought that it was nice, and Sarah has this high-pitched voice that she can tap into that makes her sound sound kind of childish, you know. So I really thought that the character, nobody could have voiced her better than Sarah, you know. Honestly, just really well cast there. We also have Jack McBrayer as Felix, you know, the repairman in the game Fix It Felix Jr. You know, just very optimistic, very upbeat, you know, who's pretty much has the hero's attitude, who, despite everybody else being uncomfortable with Ralph around, he still wants to kind of include him, you know, they are co-workers. So it's really nice to see, man, the game characters interacting with each other like it's all just a play or something. It's really nice. Reminds me of Super Mario World 3 or Brothers 3, right, where like everything was like a stage with the curtains. Then we have Jane Lynch playing Sergeant Calhoun, you know, who is the lead character of Hero's Duty, who has a very sad backstory in her programming. Apparently her husband died, you know, he was eaten by a cybug, and she just has been very bitter since then, you know. Although it's strange because it's said in the lore of the movies that a cybug becomes what it consumes, so it would have turned into her husband and she would have been shooting at him, but still, that's a theory for Nightmare Fuel later. We have Alan Tudyk as King Candy, who is, you know, the character who is the primary villain. He completely destroys his game and another out of jealousy because another game becomes more popular than him, so he wants all the attention for himself, you know. Very well played too. I really like the way that they implemented the twist, you know. I did not expect it, you know. I did not expect that twist at all when I saw the movie for the first time years ago. It wasn't telegraphed at all, if you ask me. Then we have Mindy Kaling as, oh my god, how the hell do I say this, man? Taffeta Mutton Fudge, who's a racer, one of the racers in Sugar Rush, you know, who thinks Vanellope is a threat. Then we have Joe Lutruglu as Markowski, who was a soldier from Hero's Duty. You know, he actually meets him in Tapper, you know, Ralph. Then we have Ed O'Neill as Mr. Stan Litwack, who's the owner of the arcade, you know, the guy that we see at the beginning, you know, with the coins and the kids and the machines and stuff. Then we have Dennis Haysbert as General Hologram, you know, who is one of the generals, the holographic general in Hero's Duty, you know. I always thought his voice was familiar, but I never knew it was this guy here. But still, now, then we have Adam Carolla as Winchell, who is a Long John, wait, what? A member of the Sugar Rush Police Department. Oh yes, he was probably one of the Orioles or something. No, not the Orioles. The candy balls, but the thing I don't remember. And then we have Horatio Sands as Duncan, who is a donut, who was a member of the police department. Why am I reading the secondary characters? Might as well finish now. We have Rich Moore as Sour Bill, who is the little sour ball and the assistant to King Candy. He's a little green ball who's always sounding depressed, and Ralph puts him in his mouth at one point and chews him and spits him out. It's freaking just traumatizing, man. I really think the cast was very well-rounded. You know, I love the callbacks to the other games, man. You know, one of my personal favorites is when King Candy is going to input this little code to access the archives, you know, in Sugar Rush, the source code, you know, to get Ralph's medal back, and he actually puts in the Konami code, a very famous code for gamers back in the day, you know, when games were too tough. I really like the inclusion of certain villains too, like there's like this little Villains Anonymous room for almost like Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know if that's how you say it. Alcoholics Anonymous, kind of like a group therapy session where we see villains from different games, you know. We see Zangief from Street Fighter, Bowser from Mario. I do believe there's also Zurg from Toy Story, but that's not, I don't think Zurg shows up. I don't remember actually. Does he? Okay, well, we have a few different villains too. We have Cupid, you know, who's one of those examples of a very crass, you know, character who always cursed in his game, you know. And Scene Tapper, you know, there are some moments where the game uses the jerky motions that we see in video games back in the day, like the 8-bit arcades. You know, they kind of move around like this and stuff. You know, it's really nice to see that in the Tapper area. You know, different callbacks to games, and there are many references to other games. You know, we see Pac-Man and stuff. You know, the villains meeting takes place in one of the Pac-Man rooms. When they leave, we can see them, you know, doing those erratic motions. I think it's really cool. Man, everything about this movie is just so awesome. You know, we see a lot of different references. We see somewhere written all your base or belong to us, you know, from that game called Zero Wing. There's also in graffiti somewhere this thing called Aerith Lives from Final Fantasy, where Aerith dies. You know, everything about the game, it just calls in all gamers from everywhere. That's why I think it's so good. It's very well rounded, well made. Everything about this game, about this movie, just screams perfection, man. There are some other things too that I want to share with you guys, you know, if I can find it here. You know, there are certain items too that we see that harken back to old games, like the Mario Mushroom, you know, that Ralph throws out at one point. We see references to Metal Gear Solid. We see the Sonic characters, you know, like the entire video game hub, like all of these games from the arcades back in the day, the characters know each other. There's a moment where Ken and Ryu are fighting in Street Fighter, and then the game stops, the players leave, and then they go to a bar to have drinks, they talk to each other. Everything is all one big act, you know, they're just acting that way, which I think is really cool, man. It just brings so much more depth to it. There was one other thing that I was going to say here, but I can't really find it now, so yeah, just whatever. But still, that's how it is, man. I'm going to go now into the final stretch and talk a little bit about a few more details and my personal thought about it. But before that, let's take a look at another clip here.
Sugar Rush?
You're not from here, are you? Hey, why are your hands so freakishly big?
I don't know. Why are you so freakishly annoying?
Ralph abandoned his game.
Where's the wrecking guy?
Our game is broken. We'll be put out of order for good.
Without Ralph, we're doomed!
You can tell that the production team and the animators really did their research before making this movie. You know, they really put their heart and soul into it. Everything was so authentic and true to form. All of the references to the other games. You know, sometimes certain characters don't appear, but they are mentioned. You know, like we hear like the other characters say Mario or Lara Croft. You know, there's a lot of references to other games too, like Quicks and Frogger. You know, like Paperboy, even Pong, those old-timey ones. You know, if you grew up in the 70s or 80s, I don't think games were very popular in the 70s, but if you grew up back in those time periods and saw those very early style 8-bit games, you know, the evolution getting better and better, this is going to be very nostalgic to you, while also having a modern take and attracting the more younger generation. So I personally think it's really cool. There were some moments that made me almost become like that exclamation mark from Metal Gear Solid, like, what? You know what, that sound effect, which does show up. You know, there's a moment where Ralph is in a bar and he picks up the exclamation point, even with that same sound. I'm like, hey, it's Metal Gear. Never played a single Metal Gear Solid game, but I knew what that was. You know, we all know what it is at this point. So I think it's cool, man. I think it's really awesome how they did, like, everything here was very, very genuine. It felt very close to home. It was really heartfelt, and I absolutely loved it so much. To me, Wreck-It Ralph is one of the best movies in Disney's canon from the 2010s, you know, but it is beat out by Moana. You know, Wreck-It Ralph used to be my favorite movie by Disney from the 2010s, but after I saw Moana, I'm sorry, but bro, just freaking awesome. And also the sequel to Wreck-It Ralph, Ralph Breaks the Internet, kind of bogged a little bit down the first one. Like, everything that the producers did in the first movie, they did the opposite in the second one. They forgot what made the first one so popular. Oh, I can't wait to review that one and take it apart. But as for the first one, really like it. Very good characters, really good music, a lot of really cool animation. The story was very unique and awesome. It felt very original and fresh, you know, and the way that the characters have chemistry, the voice actors, the way that they really bring life into their performances, everything was awesome. The visuals, you know, the gaming culture. That's why Wreck-It Ralph will get a rating on my channel here of 10 out of 10. It was flawless, perfect, nothing bad at all to say about it. If you watch CinemaSins video about it, then, you know, they do cover a few really interesting points. CinemaSins is a channel that I really like to watch, but they don't define themselves as actual legit movie critics. You know, they just do it for fun and satire. But you guys can go watch later Everything Wrong with Wreck-It Ralph. I really like that video. You know, it really brings out a few points, but everything is cool, man. The digital world, seeing how the consequences play out in the video game, in the, not just in the game, but also in the real world. To me, that was just amazing. God, I love that game so much, bro. Sorry, I love that. Why did you see how I get my streams crossed? I love that movie so much. To me, it is awesome. And yeah, man, we become the Thing. And I have no idea where my brain was going there. I'm already thinking about reviewing the sequel later. But yeah, if you have somehow never watched Wreck-It Ralph, it really, really deserves, you know, your attention. Trust me, especially if you're a gamer. And even if you're not, you still should give it a chance if you like Disney movies. Who doesn't like Disney movies? You know, besides DreamWorks. But yeah, guys, I think that's it. I think I've covered every single thing that I wanted to. Love this movie so much, you know. Probably feel like I'm probably gonna watch it again later. No, not really. It's been too much already. But anyway, so if you guys happen to like this video, please go ahead and give it a like and also subscribe to my channel because I release videos every single day. And while you're at it, hit the notification bell too so I can know exactly what time I upload. And it is all good. It is all good. I'm gonna wreck it! This is Chazzy signing out for now. That was so cringy. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Roll the outro screen. I was gonna make another joke, but no, just roll the outro screen.
It's not gonna work!
We gotta try.
So how'd I do?
Well, you almost blew up the whole mountain.
Right. That's a good note.
Top shelf.
Top shelf!